There we go. It's coming through now.
Okay, now I see it.
I think it's getting picked up twice.
I think you guys are in. No, I think you guys are in.
There we.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I heard it. I had the stream unmuted, so now we can do it once again.
I think we're back.
Cool.
Chris, it was a minor hiccup in what so far has been a near perfect stream.
Logan.
If I near perfect. This is literally nothing has gone right in this stream, and Fred is still he's like, you remember when we invaded Iraq and they had that guy that showed up on the TV and like everything's fine, our army will prevail. This is Fred right now. You guys don't remember that.
No, but honestly, I feel like I cannot, I feel like this is not my fault. I feel like this really
Baghdad Bob. That was the guy's name, Baghdad Bob. You're being Baghdad Bob right now.
Because all that happened is I had to restart the software and it worked. So proof that. All right.
Your boomer cure worked. So we're starting all over again, right?
Okay, so we're starting all over again. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'm gonna be shorter about my introduction, but I'm still gonna get through it because
they heard your introduction.
They heard you.
Right? Okay, yes, they've heard everything. That's true. So we've got Chris on the show. We've got Ali and Logan, who have become great sponsors of the event, and thank you guys for coming back. Ali is now the official presenter. She's gonna go through the description so that when we explain what the games are about, you guys can actually understand what the person is saying.
It's because I'm the only literate one.
Yes, she can.
Is this why you put on lipstick today? That you became an official reader, and you're like, that means lipstick.
She's the official host now.
All right.
Well, I'm so pale, you can't see anything on my face unless I put shit on it.
That's a good way to put it.
Fair enough. I can't argue with that.
You would fit right into DC too, because I feel dark in DC. I'm a dark guy in DC. I just am. The Logan is back with us. Thanks, Logan, for making it. And we've got someone that we're excited to have tonight because I think you're going to be very insightful, and I look forward to your comments. Michael, why don't you introduce yourself so that I don't F it up?
Well, hi, my name is Michael. I'm a Canadian game developer in Nowhere, Saskatchewan. I just released my big game called Radio General, and I'm looking forward to being here on the show. It's looking good. Well, except the beginning wasn't good, but
yeah,
I'm sure the rest
I think the beginning was a big miss.
I just like to point out that Nowhere, Saskatchewan is redundant.
Fair enough. The Nowhere part is pronounceable. The Saskatchewan part is not.
Fair enough. I give you that.
Radio General, a game that we talked about plenty last week. I encourage you guys to go check it out on Steam. I think it's doing really well in terms of within the context of the indie realm. And Michael, hats off to your entire studio for having put up such an effort. So we look forward to getting to know you and have a good time with the show. We're about to move on to the news. Ali, I'm just assuming that you are super ready. Ready to get the party started.
Yes, I'm ready. I can read. I'll try.
Fantastic.
This is the part where we test to see if I really am literate.
Yep, we can move on to the news section. Flipping it over to you.
Okay, all right. In the news this week, we've got Saints Row, the third remastered, launching on May 22nd. Saints Row, the third remastered, a comprehensive restoration of the beloved turning point for the Third Street Saints, steeped in over-the-top action, absurd weaponry, and equal parts shameless and profitable bobblehead merchandising. It's headed to PC and consoles on May 22nd. The game has received a full makeover courtesy of Separasoft. Is that how you say that?
I would assume so.
Every weapon has been remodeled. Every car has been redesigned. A vast proportion of the city has been retextured, all sparkly and new with over 4,000 assets updated to match current-gen fidelity. Retextured environments, character models, visual effects, enhanced graphics, and a lighting engine. For more information, head over to Saints Row.
Doing a good job. I think you can just move on because I've already moved on to the next
All
one.
right.
Whoa, but the sad part about that is that was the last game that I remember being touching before I left THQ. And then people after THQ went under in bankruptcy, went back to the headquarters specifically just to get the big purple dildo sized bat.
Are you serious?
Everywhere. Yeah. Anyways.
Nice. Moving on.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is Surviving the Aftermath, enhances combat, introduces rampaging animals, and more. Surviving the Aftermath is a game where you survive and thrive in a post-apocalyptic future. Resources are scarce, but opportunity calls. Now the I can't read. Now the post-apocalypse, it throws me off. Now the post-apocalypse gets even more deadly, with marauding bandits attacking your colony's gate and rampaging wildlife going on the offensive. Update 6 introduces the first version of Surviving the Aftermath's combat system. Players looking to shape the combat mechanics in the future updates are invited to leave feedback via the updated in-game feedback tool.
Am I the only person that really doesn't want to play an Aftermath game like right now? Like, I mean, I can go outside and just be like,
and feel
all right.
Some guy,
it's here.
actually more than
Who wants that? Who wants that? Man, the world sucks. I need to go to another virtual world that also sucks.
I saw an announcement today of a studio that's putting together a game for Noah's Ark. So talk about contextual. Yeah. But it looks pretty decent. Go ahead, Addy.
All right, moving on to our last in the news for this week. The Dark Pictures anthology Little Hope coming summer 2020. If you're looking for these sensations and more, your wait will end soon as the next chapter of the Dark Pictures anthology series. The Dark Pictures Little Hope will be releasing in the Americas in summer 2020 this Steam. In Little Hope, abandoned and all alone, 4 college students and their professor are trapped by a mysterious fog in an isolated... I don't know. They're in an isolated town.
I love how it came to a crushing stop. Allie can't read.
Fuck you. They search desperately for a means of escape while visions from the town's occult steep past haunt them from the shadows in order to stay alive. They must uncover the mysteries behind these relentlessly pursuing dark apparitions before evil forces drag each of their souls to hell. I'm gonna have to Google that fucking part.
I'm personally kind of fed up with the whole dark adventure games in the style of vampires.
You picked this news, Fred. So
no, but I totally agree. No, it's fair, but I think that you look at this trailer and it looks excellent. It looks like something I look forward to playing. I like this.
I've never seen that. In your defense, Allie, I've never seen that word in that form. You've heard of eponymous, right? Which is like the eponymous being the thing named after itself, right?
I feel like sometimes they just
right?
It was a popular word in the late 1800s, apparently.
There was a REM song named that, which is why I happen to know the word. But apparently this is the noun form of the adjective eponymous, which is a person after whom a discovery, invention, place, or etc. is thought to be named, right? But yeah, don't throw that in your news.
I feel like that didn't make any fucking sense in that sentence, though.
It grammatically it makes sense, but someone just went through a thesaurus trying to make sure that they were using unique words to justify their design decision. So
yeah.
Well, in any case,
don't do that in your news. This is a lesson in how to not write news blurbs. Don't use words people don't know.
Actually, we don't. Actually, Chris, you overestimate us. We don't write news blurbs. We copy paste the press release.
I'm saying the people who wrote the press release, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's job was to write a press release, and they were like, "I'm going to use this SAT word, and I'll be smart." And don't do that.
A lot of times, it's like the video game adaptation of CNN. They talk to you like you're a kid. They talk to you like you're a kid, and they patronize the crap out of you, and it's obnoxious.
Well, here they're just assuming I know words that I don't.
Yeah, this is so weird. The little Zoom program, I'm holding a pen, and it figures out like my hand is a hand, but it doesn't know that the pen is a pen. Like there's a pen here, and you can't see it. That's so weird. Sorry.
At least it's a pen and not something.
I know. I'm going to start holding up like really questionable objects just because to see whether or not Zoom figures out what they are.
I want to know what real questionable objects are.
I don't know if you
in your book. I don't know if I want to know that. Actually, maybe after the show. All right, moving on.
That cup almost disappeared.
I believe we've gotten sidetracked.
So we've got 7 games coming out this week. It's a pretty good selection. It's actually been a very productive week in gaming this week. I think we reached just about 150 games, 170. And our selection is below the usual 10%. It's about 7%. It's not a big week, translating what it actually means in terms of quality. It's not a big week. It's a decent week, but there's some big hits, including Fallout 76, Wastelanders, and we'll talk plenty about that in just a moment. But before we move on to that, we've got A couple early access titles actually to get through. Always like highlighting those. And let's get the party started. Ali, passing it on over to you as well for Industries of Titan early access.
All right, so for Tuesday, we're looking at Industries of Titan Early Access, developed and published by Brace Yourself Games. Create a sprawling industrial city complete with the other great houses of Titan for resources, territory, and power. Do battle with ships, technology, influence, or the sheer productive power of your factories. Stake your claim to the Industries of Titan in this innovative sim/strategy game.
I'm going to do something that I don't typically do, is I'm going to pass the microphone and put you on the spot right off the bat, Michael. You take a look at this, and what are the first thoughts rushing in through your brain?
Well, it sort of reminds me of a board game called Terraforming Mars that I played a bit, and I like that one. So it's looking pretty good. Looks pretty polished. City builders are pretty popular. People love unleashing their inner OCD, so I think that'll do pretty well, especially space theme. It also reminds me of another game called Off-World Trading Company a little bit. Maybe less competitive, though, of course.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Off-World Trading.
It was a competitive RTS game that removed all the combat from an RTS and just had the economy, so you're trying to do cutthroat trades. But no, this game's looking pretty good. It's got a little bit of everything.
It's solid. Just to kind of
the aesthetic.
From the research I did, they've been in development for some time now, and they're actually this is not a small team. It's a relatively big indie team, and in that aspect, I would be more critical and say I'm not impressed in light of just the budgeting that they had to work with, or at least that seeming right, because you got a payroll when you've got a big team like that. That's going to be a real toll on you.
Stop being so French.
No, but it's
I do not believe with that kind of money I could have done that myself.
What's your take, Chris?
I like it. It looks cool to me. I mean, they've made a stylistic choice that I personally don't like, of having everything kind of be all blocky and not pixely, but voxely, I guess.
It's too close to pixel art, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't like voxel art either, quite honestly. I mean, I think there's an aesthetic happening right now where like everything becomes really voxely. It's in a couple games this week, actually. And
it is.
It's an aesthetic choice that people make that I think the thinking behind it is if we kind of simplify and make things more iconographic instead of realistic, we can take the focus away from the art and put the focus on the gameplay. I get that as a creative decision. I just don't happen to like the style very much. But I mean, that's a personal choice. That's not like it's bad. It's just I don't like it. But
I think it's a little bit of the environment.
Yeah, I like that they're doing a moon of Jupiter. Like they don't. Is it Jupiter or Saturn? Is Titan the moon of Jupiter or Saturn? I don't know. It's one of the two.
Saturn.
They don't do enough of the. That's a really neat piece of science fiction lore that I don't think is pulled out enough. I don't know if you guys remember. There was a company called DreamPod 9 back in the day, and they did a fighting mech game called Heavy Gear, and it was all set on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, and it was a really cool lore, I thought. And I don't feel like we do that enough. I think there's a really great lore in sort of a bit of science fiction lore that you could pull out of the, we've colonized our solar system, but not the whole universe, and we're on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. I think it's a cool way to go, and I think it's fun. It looks like an interesting game. This looks like a neat indie game. I would look at it. I would play it.
Logan, where do you stand?
where I stand, so I'm going to come at it with the game devs themselves. So Brace Yourself Games is Vancouver studio. I'm familiar with them a little bit, but they have put out a title that I loved when it came out, which is The Cadence of Hyrule.
I remember that.
Yeah. So these are the devs. This is another project from them. They've got a couple others lined up that are aimed for the Unreal store. I like their products. I mean, ultimately, this, once again, I'm kind of with Chris that this isn't necessarily my cup of tea, but they're good devs, and I probably think if I were to sit down and play it, it would be enjoyable. So, from a quality bar, I think they've shipped other games that will have something that they've at least put good development work into. So that would be my stand behind point.
I'm gonna walk back my comment a little bit. Like I was a little bit down on the voxel looking art. I've been sitting here watching.
I am too. I agree with you. I am too.
I don't.
I've been watching the videos, and I think for what they're trying to do with making kind of this big, grim, dark future, colonization, whatever, it actually kind of works.
It really does. In my opinion, I think it's more of, rather than having all these pretty buildings to look at, these buildings just serve one purpose. Like they're not fancy. They're just there to like house people or whatever it is their purpose is. They're not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, utilitarian.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually am with you. The more I watch the trailer, the more I'm kind of like, yeah, I get what they're trying to do. Like, the more I watch it, the more I'm into it. To be honest, I don't usually
ballsy.
like this visual style, but maybe this is a place where it's warranted. I guess a lot more than where it gets used in a lot of other games. I feel like it's maybe.
Can we?
I agree. I think it works for this.
Yeah, maybe.
Can we use the word steampunk here?
Yeah, sort of.
It's like that cyberpunk kind of feel a little
Space
bit.
punk. Yeah.
Space punk, whole new genre. You should send that to them and be like, add it to your presser. There you go, guys.
Right there, space
Free of
punk.
charge.
Story rich.
I guess I just don't know that the nighttime theme works well with city builders.
Oh, I kind of like the night neon aesthetic. I actually like the washed out gray around the city outlining it, and the neon glowing in the mist.
It's like the new futuristic look.
Yeah, the one Civilization game I did not like, for example, is the one I think it was not. It wasn't. It was the Civ in Space. I forget the exact name. Came
Beyond
out
Earth.
Alpha Centauri.
Beyond Earth, correct? Yeah, Beyond Earth, and I didn't like it, and I couldn't really wrap my head around why I wasn't enjoying it. And then Civilization 6 came out, and the whole light and the feeling that you're on these islands, and there's the waterways, and there's this refreshing feel when you play Civilization 6.
Yeah, they're on a moon of Saturn. They don't have any of that there, dude.
Yeah, but I don't want to feel like I'm in a sci-fi game when it gives me anxiety, right? And when I'm playing City Builders, I don't want to feel anxiety. I want to feel. But then you could have the same argument against Stellaris, right?
That's just a choice you're making. That's not a valid.
It's a personal
critique,
taste. That's not a valid. Yeah, that's
right?
totally.
You can't put that out as a critique.
Totally agree in the sense that I don't think that I think the game's totally worth it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here in the first place. It's just my personal taste. I'm not drawn to it personally. Yeah.
See, I think that's for the record, I liked Alpha Centauri. I had a good time with Alpha Centauri. I thought it was. I was sick of Civ by then because there'd been, how many Civs, and I was like, yeah, okay, I got tanks again, woohoo, whatever. I actually was excited to play something new when I played Alpha Centauri. So for me, I feel kind of the same of how many city builder games have you seen that aren't this? Hey, this is kind of new. This is interesting.
But what does
for me? It's got a little bit of a RimWorld kind of feel to it in terms of the I don't know, the dark future aesthetic.
What kind of?
This is kind of for whoever wants to pick it up. But what does it take to make a good city builder? It's a big question.
Probably replayability. People who play city builders want to like OCD and make like their perfect little city and just keep going and going kind of like endlessly. So I wonder how the end game of this one will play out. Like when you get to the end, what is there to do?
I mean, I think the real thing you have to get to, where city builder or civilization builder games come alive is where you feel that your choices mattered. Actually, of all of them, I think one of my favorites was, remember the old SimCity? Not the newer SimCity.
My all-time favorite city builder.
Old SimCity, Windows 95 SimCity.
Yeah, I was there, Chris. I was there. I was 13.
And what was nice about that was there were fewer decisions, but the decisions were really important. And you really felt like if I did this, it was really going to matter. And you would get, I don't know, maybe an hour or 2 hours into the game, and you would be like, fuck, I did this wrong. And you trash the whole thing and you start all over again. And while it seems like that would be a really negative moment, that's actually a really positive moment because that's you admitting to yourself that you did wrong, right? That I was playing this game and I was making decisions and the decisions that I made were wrong. So I'm going to go back and make them again. Where you don't want to get is you get, and I see this in a lot of city builder or civilization builder games where you get 4 or 5 hours into it and you've kind of figured out like, yeah, it didn't really matter what I did. This is what it looks like after 4 hours. When you ask what it takes to make a good city builder game, that's the core of it.
So, can you make a good city builder game that's an easy play? That's an easy playthrough.
Sure. I think Minecraft has kind of hit that on the head a little bit.
Yeah.
Where
well said.
you're there and it's Legos. It can be a city if you want it. It could be you just chasing a cow, or there's a couple of gameplay rules that are in there. Keep in mind, I do not like builders at all, and I do not like a ton of things where you are the developer. I think hardworking developers that put a lot of attention and love into their games deserve my dollars more so, on a basis that they've designed an experience. There's rules, there's things existing. The play Legos isn't necessarily my thing, but I love Legos, so I'm a contradictory. I don't know.
I love how Logan comes in with a millennial viewpoint. He's like, I don't want to win or lose. I just want to play. I want my participation trophy. Well done. Represent. Millennials represent.
I'm not a millennial. Thank you very much.
Actually, Logan, I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing just a couple weeks back, but I'm sorry to say you are. The official definition of a millennium is someone who is born between the 80s and the 2000s.
You're totally millennial, dude. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
And I know for a fact that we're the same age just about, so you are a millennium, because I am a millennial. And it sucks. It
It doesn't suck.
It
does suck. I'm sorry, dude.
Ali, it sucks.
How fucking good looking we are.
Yeah, we're good looking, but we can't say anything. We live in a generation that is completely, I mean, if you ask me, that is not allowed to say anything anymore.
As we're on a free podcast right now, broadcasting on Twitch on something that's a TV substitution with no regulation whatsoever, as you make that statement, being part of the press.
And that's nice.
Go ahead.
And that's nice. No, that's nice.
Yeah, no.
No, it's fair. That's actually fair. That's actually fair criticism of what I just said. But you can't argue, and this is way off topic, but I'm gonna still stop on it for a second. That we live in a society where it's much more sensitive today than it was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, you could say pretty much anything you wanted to anyone.
I want to tell a story. I want to tell a game dev story here. Can I tell a game dev story?
Yeah, please.
Totally unrelated to any of this.
Connect this.
All right. So as I was talking about in the pre-show, I make hidden object games, right? And this weekend I was trolling art, trying to find good art to put in our hidden object game. I'm looking through museums and finding like old ephemeria, like old tickets and coupons and posters and stuff that are all public domain that I could throw in my game. And I decided it would be really fun. We got in the game like a matching game where you see a bunch of stuff on screen and you try to find the ones, match the ones that are the same. It's a simple little game. And so you can throw anything into that, buttons or whatever. And I thought, well, I'll use stamps. That's a really, and by the way, stamps happen to be public domain, right? So I go out and I look for a bunch of old stamps, like from 1917 and stuff. And I'm finding all these great stamps. And I find this one really cool stamp, and it was from, I want to say Kenya, or it was some African country. Let's say Kenya. I don't remember. And it was this cool, and he's got like this cool like African warrior on the stamp, and he's got little scars on his face, and he's got his hair all up in an African warrior thing. He's got the spear, and I'm like, this is a kick-ass stamp, right? and it's not like I made it up or anything. It's a real stamp, and I thought, I want to put this stamp in my game. And then I was like, nope, it's 2020. I can't put that stamp in my game. I'm going to be called a racist if I put that stamp in my game. But here's the thing. That stamp was an African dude being African in traditional African clothes, made by, the art was made by Africans in Africa for an African stamp that was approved by an African government.
Don't matter.
Millions of African people used it.
It don't matter.
And nope, doesn't matter. You can't put, I actually didn't put that stamp in my game. And I thought to myself, like, I'm actively not putting African culture in my game because I'm not allowed to anymore. And I was just like, this is where we've gotten. Like, people are like, I want to have, whatever, diversity, whatever. I'm literally decreasing my diversity because I don't want to deal with the backlash of somebody saying I put a racist stamp in my game. Exactly. And it's not racist. It's literally African people showing African culture on an African stamp made by Africans. I mean, I can't get.
Yeah, because in a way it's
It's your generation that did this.
It is.
No Gen X person, no boomer is going to jump on my ass about this, right? Nobody born before the age of 1980 is going to give me a bit of shit about my Zulu stamp. But
it's that accurate. It's that accurate. I told you, Chris.
I really had this thing happen this weekend. It was literally this weekend.
I guess, but I concur, Chris. I want to say I need to move on, but I completely concur. It's a big one. The next one, it's Fallout 76 Wastelanders, and there's a ton to say about that. I'm going to pass the mic over to you, Ali. Go ahead.
Right, Fallout 76 Wastelanders, developed and published by Bethesda. Free for Fallout 76 players. So if you've already got Fallout 76, this one will be free for you. In Fallout 76 Wastelanders, people are now coming back to West Virginia. But why? Two vying factions are struggling to gain the upper hand as the secrets of West Virginia are revealed. Maybe you don't want to know those. The settlers have come to find a new home, and the raiders have come to exploit them. Embark on a new quest for the Overseer, forge alliances with competing factions, and uncover the truth about what's hidden in the mountains.
So I kind of want to open it off with drawing a comparison on this one with Final Fantasy XIV. Because I feel like Bethesda is trying to take that route of we completely messed up when we released it, and they are being persistent, right? Like
you're sorry.
Yeah, like we're sorry, we completely effed this up. But I think even they would admit it. I don't think that's subjective at all. I think Bethesda messed up, released something that wasn't ready to be released, but they are keeping at it. And for once, despite the fact that I'm French, Chris, I kind of want to applaud that effort of sticking to your guns, not withdrawing from the battle of convincing that the Fallout franchise needs an MMORPG. I'm personally a fan of MMORPGs as well. I think it's one of the best genres out there, and it's not dead. It still has quite a life in front of itself. So I have mad respect for Bethesda personally but I think every respectable PC gamer does, despite being probably feeling a little kind of irritated about the last couple years. But no one can argue that Fallout 4 you can say it wasn't the best game. You can say you were disappointed, but you can say like they didn't commit to producing a game that would appeal to most gamers, and it did to me. At least it was my discovery of the title, and I freaking dived into it and didn't stop playing for, I think I've got 150 hours plugged into it. So all this to say, I played Fallout 76 when it released. I was not attracted to it at all for reasons that I still can't quite point, like I can't put my finger on why I didn't like Fallout 76. And I wouldn't be surprised if I wasn't the only one in that sense. Because the game, it's not like you arrived in a game that was completely broken and it felt like nothing. In many ways, actually, it felt like Fallout 4. It just didn't have that appeal. Maybe the storyline wasn't there or anything. So I kind of want to ask any of you guys who could come up with a decent explanation of why like Fallout 76 didn't stick.
It's funny that you'd say it wasn't a broken game for you. It was the first Fallout game that I actually requested a refund on, and Bethesda refused me.
They did that.
They refused everyone, actually.
Probably because everybody wanted a refund.
No, and I couldn't for the life of me. I tried reinstalling, uninstall, like my saves kept getting corrupted. I couldn't get out of the vault. They're like, "There's something wrong with your files." I'm like, "I've played your game several times. I can't leave this fucking vault. Like, just give me my money back. When you fix it, I'll come back." And they just refused to give me, like, they just stopped threads altogether. They just stopped responding. And so Bethesda was left with a lot of pie on their face. And I love Fallout 4. I love Fallout New Vegas. I love Fallout 3. I love the Fallout IP. But unfortunately, this is one that I will be hesitant to play another Fallout game, and I don't think it needed an MMO.
Oh wow! So you got hurt, like real bad.
I think that's the in all the things that a dev can do, that's kind of the inexcusable, right? You can put out a game that stylistically I don't like, or you've made design choices I don't like. You can screw with my lore. You can do. You're the designer. You're allowed to do all of that. It's your IP.
Yep.
When you release something that is just buggy and unplayable, that's when you have to say, like, no, you're not allowed to do that. Right. And I've released a game or two that we were like, oh shit, that had way more bugs. And you put your nose to the grindstone and you go fix it, because that's the inexcusable sin. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of people that got burnt from that, and a lot of people who it's very difficult to get trust back from something like that, which is funny because since then, how many Bethesda games have you played? Right? There's plenty of other crap.
Sure. Yeah.
Is there a question? Right? Is there a question?
And so it's funny that we like, yeah, but I'm not playing this one. But like the dudes that made it are the same folks, right? I mean, it's not like there's one special magic team that sucks, right? So it's funny that everyone's like, yeah, I really was burnt on this game before, and I know I've played like 5 games from these guys since then, and they've all been great, but I'm not playing this one because I have this bad memory. It's a little bit weird, but I get it. I get where that comes from. You know, it's a hard thing to walk back from.
I just want to say I disagree across the board with a lot of things that's been said, but Michael, go ahead. Michael, what's your thoughts on Wasteland?
Yeah, I liked Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas a lot. I played a ton of those games. I didn't actually play Fallout 4, and when I saw 76, I was not. Yeah, it's just definitely not for me. I didn't play it at all. Though I guess it's kind of good to see that they're backtracking a little bit. You know, they're bringing back NPCs. It looks like, well, it's a baby step in the right direction for me, at least. I've always liked Fallout games as RPGs, but they seem to want to move it away and to be more like a shooter. I guess that might appeal to some people. Not for me as much.
Yeah, I mean, being able to save and reload and have that RPG element of quests and stories and like all of it's thematic with a lot of the Bethesda IPs that they've spun out, and it's something that they have a lot of experience in. So just shift it to something, and I believe I'm speaking hypothetically, because you know Fallout games are expensive. I got it. They need to sell a good amount of copies. I got it, and then they continue to produce, DLC for Fallout 4 as an example, that their player base just did not adapt well into. And they continue to build a ton of DLC. And while they had some good numbers, it's like, how do you build content that people are forced to buy in on the DLC? And it comes from I'm going to go out and say kind of a greedy perspective of how do we build a game and then, do smaller chunk installments and just profit at a larger scale. And MMO is one of those means to be able to force your player base in a larger percentage to be able to aim into that next DLC chunk. So I just prefer they spent the time, gave us city examples of Fallout at various points, and let it be that. Because Vegas was, having been and lived in Los Angeles and driven that path to Vegas so many times, it was so awesome to visit towns that were like accurate along the way of the freeway system on the way to Vegas.
Ali, do you agree with that?
Yeah, in some ways, I like the original Fallout games. I didn't buy this when it came out, and I'm really glad that I didn't, especially because they weren't refunding. And I kind of waited to see, because I had heard rumors that it was going to be a shit show. So I kind of waited to see how other people were going to feel about it. I'm really glad that I did. And I'm kind of with Logan on they kind of burned people. I don't know that I would be interested in investing into that because they burned so many. I think that was a bad decision on their part. Should have accepted the loss.
So this is a game studio that can continue doing Fallout 76 for a while, even if nobody likes it, right? Like, this is a studio that actually has the capital to keep plugging in Fallout 76 and just keep at it. And personally, I would not be surprised to see the gaming community come around it over time. And if that's, the ways they've come about delivering the MMO of the Fallout franchise, and it ends up being the biggest game in the franchise, I don't want to say I told you so, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Because I can see this game 4 to 5 years from now being a dominant force in... I don't want to say the MMORPG scene, because I think that's aiming too high, but the kind of like survival / MMORPG genre, just because it's
if you qualify anything enough, it becomes the number one.
Yeah, I mean,
as long
yeah,
as I
but
put
come
enough
on.
adjectives on it,
These are big genres. Like these are big games. These are big genres. Come on.
I'm working on the number one turn-based strategy game based on the Legends of Coffea, right? I mean, you could do it if you put enough,
I guess I have
qualifiers on it.
faith. I applaud a big studio for coming out with an unpolished product, saying, "Hey, we don't care. We're just gonna invest in it for the next 10 years, whether we get hit by it." Because come on, they knew when they launched this thing, they knew, and you cannot argue that oh wow, we fucked up. No, they knew, and they did it anyway.
You stop right there, because that is counterintuitive to exactly some of the products that you actually love, and to applaud them for releasing a shit show and saying, we know, but we're going to continue to work on it, and F you, you're going to like it.
And take your fucking money.
Yeah, it's like Blizzard constantly as a large force would stop and miss ship dates. If they were that driven to a quality bar, they would have just said, hey, Fallout's going to be late, like there's problems, and people would have been pissed at first, but like shift a marketing date, don't live or die by a marketing date, because that is a damnation. And ultimately, as Chris said, that's the ultimate like sin you can create as a developer, is shipping a buggy piece of shit and telling your fans to just like deal
suck it up. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not like actually, Chris.
Thing.
Last week. Sorry to interrupt you, but last week
go.
you were saying it is so frustrating to work with a gaming community that doesn't have the attention span to say, hey, just work with me here, right? Like just work with me, learn my shit, get through my game.
Learning my game is one thing. Learning how to deal with my bugs is another thing. I don't expect anyone to.
Unplayable piece of shit. Like, what are you working with?
But it wasn't for me. I mean, maybe that's where the disagreement lies here. Is that I
think there's a whole nother angle to this whole thing, which is, all right, I agree that there is a place for more MMORPGs. I actually think that's an interesting genre of games, and I think it's actually an underserved genre of games. I know there's not that many really good, because it takes a pretty beefy company to run one of these, right? I mean, I can't make an MMORPG, not with my little team of 20 dudes, right?
Yeah.
That's not a thing. So there's only so many companies that can run one of these, and I do think there need to be more of them out there, but I don't know if like an even shittier version of West Virginia is where I want to spend all of my time. Like, I mean, I wouldn't even want to go to West Virginia now. I don't know. Like, we've taken West Virginia and really fucked it up.
Yeah, but what's
now? Would you like? I mean, think about your Warcraft playing, right? How long have you played Warcraft? Like, I don't know, 10 years or something?
No, since vanilla day, since day one, 15 years, 16 years.
Why do you do it? Because it's a release. You're like, I want to go to this other place, and I want to be in this other world, and I've explored, and I know this other world, and I know where Ogrimmar is, and I know where the and you really internalize this.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I want to internalize a shitty version of West Virginia. I'm not sure if that's the thing I want to know that well.
And I think you just pointed out the biggest weakness in my thesis, or my counter thesis, what you want to call it, is that myself as well in Fallout 4. I'm not in love with the universe. I'm in love with the RPG elements. I'm in love with the combat. I'm in love with the...
I think it makes a great RPG. I think it's a really fun RPG. Does. You can go in, you can play the story, and you learn the story, and you're like, that's really cool. Now I've seen shitty future long enough. I want to move on to something else. If it's a MMORPG that you expect me to really invest years of my life in, it better be a world that I want to go to. And I don't know personally that I want to spend 4 years in shitty West Virginia. I just don't know if that's the thing I want to do.
I think that's more than fair, Chris. I think you hit it on the nail right here.
Are you letting him win an argument on the internet for the third week in a row?
I know, it's so awesome.
Is that what's happening?
It's all right. I got him to backpedal on Industries of Titan, so...
Well, I get it. Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah.
True.
I just wanted to take the defense of a studio that came out with a shitty product and kept at it, because I think I think it's somewhat admirable, but anyways,
they're servicing and doing right if it is actually functional now for the people that stuck around to the game. But I will never ever applaud shipping a pile of shit.
No, that's fair, and not reimbursing you in the process. Sure, no, I agree with you on that. Ali, this is not your circle.
My circle.
That's the game we're talking about.
Nope, we're missing.
You're gonna skip
checkout.
one.
What? Oh, snap. Oh, snap. Also,
Don't tell me how to read.
totally deserved. Go right ahead, Eddie. Also check out.
Not in the spotlight, but also check out Eternal Radiance Early Access, developed and published by Visual Noveler. Inspired by classic action JRPG, Eternal Radiance is an action role-playing game about a squire named Celeste who begins a journey to prove herself worthy of becoming a true knight. Her quest takes her far from home across the continent in pursuit of action stemmed from cynicism.
Breaking up a little bit, but I just want to say the reason I didn't put this one on the list is because every time I put a JRPG in front of you guys, you start to yawn. And so I was thinking, they're just not going to have anything interesting or exciting to say.
I think there's a JRPG on the list still, though, isn't there?
But I do think, in terms of what the game actually looks like, it looks fun. I think it's one of these games for kids that has its charm. But yeah, exactly.
I love how you think that JRPGs are for kids.
They are, to me,
40-year-old creepy men. That's who they're for.
That's
they're for,
disturbing.
That's true.
Dudes who watch too much hentai.
Beards. Oh, you totally misunderstand this audience, Fred.
If you're right, Corona, go right ahead.
Although, whenever I did watch this video, I did think it was like a kind of a really cute game for kids. Like, that was what I thought about it when I watched the trailer for it. So, I don't know. But then there's also, like, ridiculously oversized boobs and, like, that kind of thing. But
Or Final Fantasy VII Remake, which came out, which is stupid.
Which is not on
people
the
are gonna
list.
play that.
Which is not on the list.
I will just like to point
I
out, like, I love to bag on JRPGs. I hate them, right? Just from my core of my being,
really?
I hate them. I really
I just don't get them. I don't understand it.
But this one actually looks like a pretty decent one. Like,
Yeah,
as these go, like, again, it's a creative choice. I bag on them because I don't like them, and I don't like the whole, like, Japanese fetish, whatever. Yeah. But this looks all right. Like, looking at the videos, as these go, this looks cool.
This is one of the better ones that I've seen in our list. So
the guy that lives in Japan, that's a white dude, says he doesn't understand the Japanese fetish.
I know. I'm such a disappointment to my friends. But no, I don't like. I'm not into anime or manga or any of that crap, and everybody is really pissed off at me because I'm not. Yeah, try having a 14-year-old son that goes to Japanese public school. Go into my son's bedroom. And there's posters all over the wall, and I'm just like, God damn it! It's really but I don't know. Whatever. It's Japan. They do that here.
It's a scary thought. Honestly, it's something I think at some point we've got to address just as a community. What's going on? What's going on with child porn on Steam from Asia? Like, we just got to address that. Because that's all it is. I'm not talking about that game, just to clarify, right? Like, I'm not talking
the
about
worst thing that could ever have happened to this game. We're directly from this poor person's game to child porn. Well done, Fred.
No, but I'm not talking about that game. But it's the same. It's the same characters, except there's a ton of games on Steam that come out where they're actually just promoting the person's boobs, and that's what it's all about.
I don't know. If you want to look at boobs, look at boobs. I don't have a problem with boobs.
Maybe not
when did you become a prude,
ones.
Fred?
Circle Empires.
What's wrong with animated boobs?
Circle Empires rivals. I'm off this topic.
Look, if someone's got to stand up for boobs, and I'll be the guy that does it, right? I got no problem with boobs, and I've even less problem with animated boobs because no real woman had to show you her boobs. That's even better, right?
As long as you're full.
Allie's like, not the animated boobs. Well, then fine.
No,
you have to talk women into showing their real boobs if you're not going to animate them.
real boobs.
Chris, totally.
All right, that's your preference.
Chris, totally appreciate your own boobs, but the fact of the matter, not a 10 years old, right? Like, Boobs for a 20 years old, that's fine, but boobs on a 10 years old, that's not fine. It's just not.
All right. I'm not get into that. This is not a world I want to talk about right now.
Circle empires, rivals, all over. Go ahead.
All right, moving on to our Wednesday release. This is Circle Empires Rivals, developed by Luminous and published by Iceberg Interactive. In this fast-paced multiplayer RTS, you and your friends will control of your own tiny kingdoms and conquer a world made of circles. So this is off the Square thing, Natsume, so you should be happy.
Yeah, let me preface this by saying, typically I would just skip this game right over. Couple reasons why I didn't. It's an Iceberg Interactive game published by Iceberg Interactive, and you guys know already now that I like to highlight the game selected by the medium-sized to the bigger-sized publisher, and I'd say Iceberg is definitely a medium-sized publisher. They're the guys behind the Starpoint Gemini series and quite a few other games, and they tend to deliver quality products. The second reason is that this is the second in the series, and the first one actually had a fair degree of success. My biggest beef with it personally is this an iPad game? And if it is an iPad game, is that, is that a problem at all?
Yeah, no, stop with that. Stop the whole, I only play PS4, I only play, this is an iPad game, don't put it on my Steam. Why? Why do you, if you don't like the game because it's not a good game, then don't like the game because it's not a good game. But don't rag on a game just because it's on iPad. Like sometimes I want to play a game, and then later on when I'm not at my desk, I want to go play a game on the toilet, and I'm not going to drag my laptop in the toilet, but I'll bring my iPad in, and so yay, I get to play my game. Hearthstone. I play Hearthstone on PC and iPad. Are we going to rag on Hearthstone because it's an iPad game? That whole line of we are not allowing games to cross over from one thing to another because I don't like.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about crossovers.
I'm not into that.
I'm not talking about crossovers. I'm saying we're PC centric, and what we present to you is going to be played on a PC. Is it?
I agree with Fred.
Do you see what I mean? Yeah. Like you're going to play.
There are no games that I play on my phone or iPad that I want to play on my PC.
Hearthstone? You don't play Hearthstone on your PC when you sit down at the desk?
No.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't played it in a really long time, but when I did, it was on my phone or iPad.
Well, because I find it a much better experience on PC.
It is.
And maybe, but like just for me personally, when I jump on my PC, I don't want to play a game that I can play on my phone. I want to play that when I'm sitting on the couch fucking off, when I'm supposed to be watching some movie with my husband or whatever. Like, that kind of thing.
So I wouldn't say this is an iPad game after watching, especially the bigger one. It's got click drag commands. It's got bigger zoom that isn't just going to be too much things connected to be able to be run off of an iPad perf-wise. Like you said, this is a multiple one. The studio itself has almost nothing about it. It's from Estonia. It's a small little Tartu, Estonia, with some indie devs, and they're making weird sort of medieval fantasy strategy games. So, apparently they started independent games in 2002, a side-scrolling RTS in 2003.
Yeah, they have a history. They're not. This is not.
But they have no footprint anywhere on the internet. So it's just like, who is Luminous, and how have they been around for almost 2 decades and have zero footprint?
But you see, that's why I love these publishers, from Tiny Build all the way to Iceberg. Stopping through Devolver, these guys are somewhat promoting studios that are in remote locations in Europe, especially like Eastern Europe, and pushing the developers to get out there when the developers on their own. And that's when I think indie publishing makes sense, right? Like indie publishing for a guy in Texas doesn't really make sense anymore.
The guys that you just mentioned, Tiny Build, Iceberg, the world needs these guys. The world really, really needs these guys.
I think so.
Because the problem is you go to most publishers and you say, I got a game that I think if it does well, it could make between $500,000 to $1 million. And they don't even want to know your name. They're like, screw off. $500,000 doesn't get me out of bed, right? You hadn't give a shit about $500,000, right? You go to Tiny Build and you make a game that makes Tiny Build $750,000, and you're one of Tiny Build's best developers, and they love you, right? And that's the world need. If we want good quality independent content, we need to have people who support good quality indie content, not just from a consumer standpoint, but also from the publisher standpoint. And I think the world needs icebergs and tiny builds way more than it needs, honestly, Bethesda and Ubisoft. If you want to have a diversity of interesting content out there, those people are important.
Especially because the big studios you just mentioned look at what's working in the indie scene to go then duplicate that in a much more mainstream kind of way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the indie games.
No,
are
Michael, you're not
experimental workhouse of game development.
I think what you just said about AAA companies taking what like indie successes, I'm not sure if I agree with that. They're definitely moving more towards games as a service, as like something they want to just continue updating the same game forever, releasing stuff like Fallout 76. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of like Devolver. I think I agree. Those guys we need. Absolutely.
But I mean, that's exactly the point, right? If you've got a company that's got a brand like Fallout 76, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. They have a brand, and they're gonna keep going and milking that cow until that cow is entirely out.
Yeah, but
of milk,
Tiny Build does.
right?
I'm sorry to say, Tiny Build does the exact same thing in a much smaller way. For example, if you look at Hello Neighbor, which is their biggest game out right now, and you look at the game has a 30% approval rate on Metacritic. Like, that's
Really?
That's worse. That's worse than worst. Essentially, the gaming community is screaming at Tiny Build, just guys, let it go. And they are not just shoving it down in our throats.
But they wouldn't be doing it if they weren't making money off of it.
Because they're making money. Exactly, they're making money off of it, and yet they've got nothing but negative feedback.
This is the thing. I don't give a shit what Metacritic thinks. If that game is consistently making money, it means that somebody is consistently giving them money, which means somebody wants it.
No, it's making money because they're franchising, they're marketing the crap out of it. So on top of making video games, they're making cartoons, they're making books, they're just selling it
Yeah, but you wouldn't do all that if it didn't make money.
It's because it's cute, but it's not a good game. And they're not promoting a good game, says the community. They're
promoting
Chris,
something
not Fred.
that's different.
Not Fred, right?
I'm just saying,
community as a whole is coming together to say.
Let the market speak, right? If the market wants it, the market wants it. If the market doesn't want it, doesn't want it.
The fact that you say, I don't want to. I don't put aside the fact that we have a relationship with Metacritic. I couldn't care less about this in the realm of this conversation. The fact that you say you don't care what Metacritic says, essentially you're saying you don't care what gamers are saying, because Metacritic.
No, I care what gamers are doing.
I love Rotten Tomatoes.
Metacritic is not what gamers don't make the ratings at Metacritic. Critics like you make the ratings.
No,
what gamers do is gamers go buy games.
Yeah, but there's a whole.
If there's people buying games, then there's people that want it. Right. And I think that's what I'm trying to say. There's a bunch of stuff out there that maybe you're not into. Maybe it's too pedestrian for you, or it's too simple, or whatever. But there's somebody who wants that. And if somebody wants that,
kids on Twitch,
then by all means, let somebody make them, let somebody sell it, and let them have it. What's beautiful to me about the Devolvers and the Tiny Builds and the whatever is they've all found little niches of, I mean, look at the game Michael made, right? I mean, let's face it, not everybody wants to play a game where you sit in a tent and talk to your soldiers on a walkie-talkie. That's not a thing that the vast majority of the world wants to play. But there's a group of people out there that think that's really cool. And
absolutely,
somebody made that thing, and now that thing is available for that group of people. And there's another group of people that's entirely different from that wants to play, I don't know, My Little Pony. And those two people are not the same. And to say that you have to make a game
you would be naive to think that Tiny Build is gonna say, Michael, you made a great looking game. It's a professional product. We're gonna support it, because that's just not how they operate.
If Michael could make a case for this is going to sell $750,000 to $1 million worth of units, absolutely they would pick it up. Well, actually, they probably wouldn't, because they know that's not their audience, right? There is a Tiny Build audience, people who play Tiny Build kind of games, right? Slytherin, who we talked about before. Slytherin might be interested in Michael's game, because Slytherin's got that kind of audience, right?
But Slytherin's a completely different ball game.
But that's my point. Slytherin has its own sort of crew. It's the kind of people who like Slytherin kind of games.
Right, but they're not a mainstream
Tiny
indie
Build
publisher
crew,
like Tiny Build and Devolver. And my concern, I also agree that Tiny Build and Devolver are great forces in the industry, but I have some concerns into how they're evolving, and they're suddenly, because it's been just a couple years at the most that they're becoming these mainstream blockbuster indie houses, right? And they're not making choices all the times that help me feel like they're gonna keep supporting and promoting people like Michael. To be short,
that's probably true. But I think I would look at these small indie publishers as being slices of community, right? And this is a slice of the community. This is the kind of people who like this. Paradox is a perfect example, right? I love Paradox games. I like everything Paradox does. Quality publisher, right? Most of what Paradox does, most of the gaming world will never want to play, right? That's just not what you do. Come on,
they've grown the niche.
Part-time job, right?
Yeah, but Paradox has grown the niche. Like,
but you can say that there is a Paradox game, right? That you in a Paradox audience. And if Tiny Build moves to a different audience than what you're comfortable with, that's fine. As long as they have an audience of people that wants that thing and they're providing for that audience, I don't have any problem with what they do. And my dream is that we end up in a world where there are 30 or 40 of these different independent publishers that each have their own sort of slice of the industry and say, we're the publisher that can get you this audience because we think this is the audience that's going to like whatever the hell you're making. And that's not going to be all of them. It's going to be 2 or 3 of those publishers because that's the slice they own. That to me is an exciting future. Because now I've got a reason to go to a publisher because that publisher has a basket of users that kind of look alike. And I know that I can market to them cheaply. I don't have to market to the whole world. I can just market to those folks and they'll buy my product because they're the right folks to market to.
I actually agree with all that, Chris. Like, I'll move on this topic because we got to get the show moving. Ali, it's already 9:50 p.m. on my clock, so let's skip the Fly Punch Boom First Impact. I encourage you guys to check it out on our website opnoobs.com. Here's a free plugin, shameless plugin, and move on to Thursday with a game that, in light of our conversation, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago about that sludge game from Devolver, actually.
You've learned nothing, Fred. You've learned nothing.
We've learned absolutely jack shit.
It definitely looks bad. I don't think you'll trash this one as much. So let's move on. On Thursday, you got Drug Dealer Simulator, developed by Byte Runners Game Studio and published by Movie Games and Playway. Have you ever thought about expanding your own crime empire without the legal and moral consequences? Simulate it. Now you'll be able to crawl into the dark alleys of the drug dealing business, become a street business mastermind or ruthless gangster. It's up to you.
Logan. Why don't I'm putting you on the spot. I mean, you were the most critical last week or 2 weeks ago, so go right ahead, Stars. Kick this one off.
It appears to take itself a little more lightly in the trailer, at least. And it's looks like an economy-based drugs, like classic drug guy before weed stations were legal, and all the drugs that are currently illegal. It doesn't have 3 butted cats, and the art style's on point, the theme is on point, and it just looks fairly mundane. It's not about violence, it's just about running drugs, and it plays like a simulator like anything else. So I think it has its spot for those that want to deal drugs. Sure, maybe this is a fantasy thing, so you don't have to deal drugs and you want to pick up random phones.
Is it wrong? Because that's where I was with you up till now, right? And then I think this is. I mean, I'm not the type of person who thinks that games should influence kids the right way. I'm not. I think that's not the studio's job. That's not the studio's responsibility. But I also don't think that this is a game that's going to appeal to people who don't want to sell drugs in real life.
I mean, they could have seen something in a movie and been influenced.
Like
people don't necessarily want to ride a big rig, but truck simulator is a thing that is year to year,
Yeah, like they wouldn't act on it, right? Like, I'm not saying that everybody's going to play this game is going to end up selling coke on the corner. No, I'm not saying that, but I don't know.
Don't they have like GTA where they can do kind of the same thing?
It's like the mini missions from GTA, right?
Yeah.
It is.
It's a bite-sized version of that universe focusing on one specific thing, and they try to add some comedy spin into it.
You got a teenager as a kid, Chris. How do you feel about this?
It's not that. I want to look at this from a totally different angle.
Sure.
Let's pretend for a moment that you took all the drugs out of this game and it wasn't drugs. Let's pretend for a moment that it was the exact game. You're watching the exact same trailer, but instead they're selling, I don't know, Etsy t-shirts, right?
It still looks like shit.
Right. Would you play this game then?
No.
Would you be if I showed you this exact same trailer and he's got the little cell phone out and he's flicking through Etsy t-shirts, would you be excited about this game then? Because that's okay. They used a drug angle, and I don't know if I personally like the drug angle or don't like the drug angle. My question is, without the sort of we're talking about drugs, without that, is this still a good game? And I don't know. It looks okay, I guess, but it doesn't look incredible to me. I don't know.
It doesn't necessarily look bad, but that's like saying, let's play Hitman, but pretend instead he's showing up as a surprise male stripper. Would you play that game?
Yeah, but
I'd play that game. I'd totally play that game,
man.
dude.
There's a specific audience for that.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely like cougars.
Hitman is definitely atmospheric.
But that's just it. The atmosphere of this is going to have a certain, like, you're looking for the cops. You're delivering drugs. The type of people you're quote unquote interacting with, and so I think it's got a very straightforward theme that tailors specifically for. So
I think Allie mentioned before GTA, right? So GTA had a dark theme. It had drug dealers and stuff like that in it. My son played a lot of, I can't remember what it was called. It was the Lego GTA ripoff game. It was like there was a Lego version of GTA where you ran around the Lego town, and it was still a really fun, really cool game. And I watched him play that, and I thought to myself, wow. The core of this game, what you're actually doing and finishing the missions and the actions and driving and all that other stuff, this is a really fun game. And actually, GTA survives, and I've seen it done because I saw it in the Lego game. GT survives really well as a non-adult themed game just off of the gameplay, and is it interesting to do the things that you do in GTA? The answer is there. There's a Lego game where you do all that. My question is, for any of these games, I'm not just talking about this game, but any of these, like, we've picked a really interesting theme and that's why we're going to get press games. My judgment of it is, if you didn't have your newsworthy theme, is it still a fun game? Are the actions of playing this game interesting?
Essentially, Chris is
GTA wins on that. I don't know, looking at these screenshots, that this does.
I'm sorry to say, Logan, but essentially Chris is having the exact same argument today that you were having on Sludge Life 2 weeks ago, which was you're selling something that is not, frankly, worthy of much outside of the fact that you're trying to be edgy. Right?
I think the theme is here, but would I play this over Sludge Life? I'd play this hand over fist. Like, if you can,
yeah, sure.
If I have to pull a gun on one of the two, I'm pulling it on Sludge Life without holding second thought, and like I'm hugging, Drug Dealer Simulator, if that's what is. What's the name of it again? Sorry.
Yeah.
Drug Dealer Simulator, because I don't know. There's more.
I will give him credit for the name, though. You're like, what was this Drug Dealer Simulator called? Oh, it was called Drug Dealer Simulator.
Drug Dealer Simulator.
Like, as easily Google searchable names go, they've done very well.
Here's
a game called where you simulate dealing drugs.
I don't know. It was like Drug Dealer Simulator or something. It was Drug Dealer Simulator.
Here's a dramatic change of scenery. Later Daters.
Oh my god, this game. I'm ready to talk about it. So next up for Thursday, we have a game called Later Daters, developed and published by Bloom Digital Media. Welcome ye old, your new retirement paradise. Date as an octogenarian and find somebody to love, or just get your kicks in while the getting's good. Remember, if the chairs are rocking, don't come a knocking.
cute.
I love everything about this.
Wait.
I want to find these developers and give them a big hug. Oh my God, this is so awesome.
Believe it or not, this is a fairly big production, and it's actually faring very well on YouTube and other social media channels. This is not like
And God bless it for doing so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Believe it or not, this is actually quite a successful. I don't know if it's going to sell a ton, but it's doing well.
I would bet this is going to be really successful. I think it could really take off with that theme, and people love the cute aesthetic. And dating sims in general are actually they sell really well.
This pulls the sim life crowd, you think?
Yeah, exactly. That was my thought too.
And even like it even sell well with people who we don't consider hardcore PC gamers. There's a huge market for that. Like people we don't normally call gamers. Yeah, I think it's going to be very successful.
And plus, just look at the trailer. This is quality. I mean, it's got a really nice style. I mean, it's done well. Whoever the artists that worked on this had a really good understanding of putting together a coherent, solid visual feel and style. It looks polished as hell. I love everything about this. And come on, somebody made a game where I could like make grandma and grandpa do it. Come on, that's cool, right? That's how do we not want that in our world?
They have hold on, Logan. Aren't you the Animal Crossing guy here? You are, right? I think.
Wait, what is the link there? I'm trying to figure out.
The cartoonist.
Are you comparing my grandma to an animal?
Yeah,
They're both on Switch. I don't know.
The cartoonist side. The
cutesy stuff. So the thing is I'm sure it'll be fun. I'm sure it'll be funny. But dating sims on video game format is the one genre that I just have yet to wrap my mind around. As far as like,
yeah, but that's just you. This game isn't for you.
What I'm saying.
It's not
for me at all.
I'll back him up on that.
Yeah. It's a genre that I've seen funny memes from. I've seen jokes that play well off of social streams, but like as a whole, I don't get it as a game genre. People
all right, but I want to get you backing on this though. Just looking at the trailer, just
the trailer.
Look at the rooms in the background, and look at how they've actually gotten artists to do everything in this really interesting visual style. And there's not a single 90-degree angle in the whole visual design. It's just from a purely aesthetic perspective. You have to admit this is a good-looking game.
It is a good-looking game, and it would be one that I could hand like to my other half who isn't necessarily a gamer on Switch, and she'd probably laugh and play it and poke it, kind of like, you know,
that's the crowd
or something.
Okay, but it's a good looking game. I agree with you fundamentally, Chris, but at the same time it's an easy game to make. It's, in terms of from, you know, design standpoint, it's not a game, it's a bunch of quality drawers coming together with some basic animations. Like in that
what do you mean
sense,
it's not a game? It's a dating sim. What do you want from it?
Yeah, but it's not a game like, you know, we just saw every other game actually in the past, even Drug Dealer Simulator.
It's a dating sim. What do you want it to do? You want to see grandma doing it?
Can I just remind you that you picked it?
I want some animation. You know, I want some animation. I want a game. I don't want to come.
No, you're just dead wrong here, man. That's the people who play dating sims. This is exactly what they want in a dating sim. This is a well done dating sim. At least Logan is man enough to admit he just doesn't like dating sims.
No, but
man up and just admit this isn't your game.
Yeah, but he also admits that he's confused as to why there are people out there that enjoy this.
There's lots of genres that I could go on that confuse the hell out of me.
I don't understand why people play badminton. It doesn't mean badminton sucks. I mean, come on, this is cool. This is a really nice dating sim.
Like again, not to keep talking about Michael's game, but Michael's game is not one that, you know, that I would play personally, but I can totally understand why there's a whole crowd around it. This, I'm more like, I don't get it.
You just don't get old people, man.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's, you know, what? You're 11 years old, or no, you're older, but you have issues. Like what's the deal here?
Like I said before, most of the games I've sold over the last 15 years, my core audience was 65 and female. And I have a really good idea what a 65-year-old woman wants to play in a game. And it's not, and I'll tell you, it's not because these characters are old. It's not that they made an octogenarian dating sim. It's the look and the feel of the game, the simple mechanics, the fact that I don't have to learn 50 different ways to do. I get it. There's people that want to play a game where you have to, really learn a bunch of stuff and there's a lot of skill. That's not what dating sims are. Dating sims are about you just mindlessly sitting and being like, oh, I wonder what happens if I tell him this. I really like her. I hope I can and it has everything you need for that. This isn't your game, Fred.
No,
let it go.
It's not. And
the name's good. The trailer's good. The sample bite. I mean, if this chair is a rockin', don't come a knockin'.
Come on, that is good.
They've got a good sense of humor. I have a feeling that the text throughout's going to be great. Once again, I'll even go back to the drug dealer thing for a second. They effed up on the biggest thing possible because all they had to do was ship that on 420 and they would have even had more.
Yeah.
They were 4 days off.
You're so right.
You're not wrong.
4 days off.
Fuck that up.
Free money.
How do you fuck that up?
I'm going to send an email to the publisher and say, you guys fucked that up.
Do it.
You should. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can tell them that I told them that they just missed out on 50% of their sales.
I gotta move on the next one. I'm excited about it for quite a few reasons. I wanna just highlight the new viewers in the chat. Thank you guys for coming. Check out opnoobs.com/raffle. We've got a big game list. If you guys in the chat yet have not signed up, do so. It's opnoobs.com/raffle, which I think Ali you spell RAFFLE. And you just plug in your Twitch ID and I think your email and you'll be competing. The list of games is on the webpage. You guys on the show can even sign up. I couldn't care less. Have fun with it. There's Battlefield 1. There's Fell Arbitrers, Seal, something complicated. It's an indie tactical game like Final Fantasy Tactics that was kind of a hit. F1 2019, which I'm completely hooked on, by the way, right now. Surprisingly, I'm making a big return on racing games on the couch. And F1 2019 is a fantastic release. And a fourth one, whose name I evade, but there's about 15 games total. So sign up, opnoobs.com/raffle. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll move into the next game that I've already eaten 2 minutes out of on the timer, and I'm pissed off about that because I think it's the most impressive game we're looking at this week. Ali, I'll let you give us a description.
I absolutely have to agree with you. So this one's main assembly early access. The developer is Bad Yolk Games, published by Team 17 Digital Limited. Build robots with revolutionary free-form crafting tools and control them through powerful visual programming. Overcome solo challenges or play with your friends in multiplayer featuring advanced physics like aerodynamics and robot deconstruction.
And this is small. Like, you guys gotta realize this is a very small studio. I can't give you an exact number. I haven't taken the time, to be honest, to look at it. And if anybody can look them up while on the show, I appreciate it. But the physics of it all, the way the game, it's actually a perfect counter to what you were just saying on that other games, Chris, when I was complaining about the lack of animation, the lack of, the feel of game development that gets the player excited about the mechanics and everything. That's completely lacking on the other game. That's completely there on this very small indie title. You have the whole sim aspect of it. That we've seen already on a couple games before, but on top of that, this one actually has kind of that what are the tensions. There's tension in the animation of the game, the way the elements move across space. Right now you're looking at a specific scene where he's building up, but there's scenes where once that build up is complete, he plays through the environment, and there the game really comes to life in a kind of like action adventure type of way. And I think that's a great combination. I'm a big fan of what's being done here, and I really hope they succeed. So anybody who wants to second me on that.
This game reminds me.
Out of it.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Go ahead.
No, please do.
When I was a kid, I played with Lego Mindstorms at Science.
Yeah.
And this is what it reminds me of. So I really dig that. And even look at the screenshots, they've got some visual coding going on. I've taught some computer science classes, so I definitely like games that kind of push computer science programming in more accessible ways. I think that's really great.
I just like to say I played with Lego Mindstorm at science camp. Maybe the nerdiest thing I've ever heard a human say. Well done. That's high octane nerd right there.
Your microphone just
loud.
had one of those moments, Chris.
I'm sorry.
But I think
it's better now.
Yeah.
Yes, much.
Yeah.
No, this is great. Ali, you want to say something?
I looked through this list and I'm actually super excited about this game. I'm getting it. It's totally in my realm of, I like to put shit together, make shit work, fail, see what I did wrong. I've been watching HUD Buddy's been putting out some videos on YouTube of him developing a game, and it kind of is similar to this. So it's like the idiot version that I can do, like what he's doing, which is really fucking cool. But mechanically, technically brained person, this just speaks to me volumes.
Yeah, and this guy plays Space Engineers, I would assume. This is straight out of Space Engineers. In terms
So
of
a little bit about the studio, since you asked about it, Fred.
Please.
It's 10 developers, and they're over in Sweden. And
10 of them, huh? It's a bigger team than I thought. There are 10 of them.
Whole 10, correct. That's one of them's the CEO and one's listed as biz dev, so probably 8 functional developers. But that's still not a large headcount for an entire product like this. They're technical artist and programmer heavy, obviously, for a game like this. But they're coming from such backgrounds of Gears of War, Doom, Wolfenstein, The Division, Just Cause, Syndicate, and Bulletstorm. So
like you're impressed too when you see this.
What a physics-based game that's kind of like implies a lot of things that automatically work. And once again, it involves building, so I'm just instantly ADD the other way.
Sure. But that's your personal taste.
I think what they're doing in order to make the parts modular and add physics on the fly, it's a phenomenal technical display for sure of something that can be used in other things, and that speaks to their AAA experience being brought down into a small product. So
what I like about it is watching. I know everyone's excited about the physics. I'm actually excited about their user interface. Watching how they put this together. The hard part of this game is not making something work with real physics. There's enough physics engines and stuff like that out there that you can use. It's work, but it's not the incredible part of the work. The really hard thing to do in this is to get people who don't know how to build stuff a proper interface for how they can put stuff, how they can watching how they're pushing and pulling things and adding things to it. It looks really easy and seamless and easy to learn, and that's probably the largest challenge they've faced in making this, to be honest.
We're watching them go through it super easy and learn. There is going to be a large...
Yeah.
No, of course there is. You can't build something this complex without it having a learning curve.
Right. That's I'm saying, like, we're seeing the best example. The UI does look phenomenal. Don't get me wrong there. And that is correct. That is one of the harder things to be able to navigate, click, drag, be able to get parts. And, you're seeing things that are on a game dev level of setting up an asset. So
if I were the kind of person, getting back to what we were talking about before, about little niches of people, right? If I were of the slice of people that was going to be into something like this, and I went to Steam and I saw this video and I saw these people putting this together this quickly and then drawing it, I would just be ready to go. I would be like, I'm downloading this right now. I'm going to play this. This looks like, of this genre of thing, this looks like a really, really nice version of this. I would be excited about. To be honest, I'm probably not going to play this because I don't have anywhere near this kind of free time in my life. But if I were the kind of person who was into this, I would be extremely excited about it.
And I think we're saying that about Paradox just a couple weeks back, that the learning curve is the point of the game. It's almost, the learning curve is the genre itself. It's a trade, and especially with this game, there is a trade-off, right? How much do you want to allow the player to do? And the more you allow the player to do, the more complex the game is going to be by definition, right? If I make everything completely, absolutely modular, right now you're just watching him or whoever, is playing the game, you're watching them put this plane together. If I just gave you, 4 plane parts and you could just chunk those together, I could make the user interface a lot easier. I could make it easier to play this game. I could simplify everything. But it looks like they're giving you a huge amount of freedom in how you can build this plane. That freedom is going to come with complexity. That's the trade-off.
This is what I think makes it fun, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
this is for the people who are going to like that.
You kind of did away quickly with the idea that the physics of the game are cool, Chris. But at the end of the day,
they are cool.
But to me, that's where the synergy happens, right? Because when you play a great action game or a great AAA game in general, what's going to dazzle you about it is just how good the action is in the gameplay, just how well the physics evolve in the environment, and your sword hitting and big clash and big special effects, how everything triggers at the right time. No, I'm just saying
from let
me finish my point.
Yeah.
When you zoom in on a small game like this, and Space Engineers, you would build the craziest thing, the most charming thing out of just the sheer focus of your intellect for hours and hours, going through that learning curve and getting to build some really cool stuff. But once it actually got into it's an environment and you played with it, it didn't feel as good as this looks to me. So I think this is exciting because they're making an effort on making sure that your creation then fits in a world in a way that is fun to play. And I think it's doing a great job at that. But I put all this in parentheses to close because Space Engineers 2 is coming out this year and it looks sick. If you haven't seen the trailer, I encourage you to check it out because they're basically taking all the money they made with the Space Engineer series and they're making like a AAA like version of Space Engineers.
Sweet.
Yeah.
No, my point on the physics was purely with the tools that are available to developers right now. That's something that a small team can I won't say easily, but a small team can dream of making good physics. That's a thing you can do now in the current world of development. That's not a huge technical challenge. And I think people underrate the technical challenge of building a quality user interface and explaining to a player how you can do stuff and having the player be able to interact with stuff. I think people really underestimate how big a challenge that is. And when I watched the videos, that was what was really impressive for me. And I'm willing to bet that's what that development team spent a lot of their time on in developing.
July? Oh, I'm sure
Yeah.
they had. Absolutely.
And you're right that when you start thinking of the different roles you're going to have in a studio like this, a 10-man team is very small because you have the CEO, then you've got the people who are coming up with all those concepts and just...
I promise you that CEO actually does real work.
Yeah.
In a 10-person team, I promise you that person actually does real development.
Of course.
I'm certain of it.
Of course.
But they have one person that he's listed as CEO and then another person that's listed as business developer. So business developer, maybe not so much.
All right.
That they're probably doing all the trailers and marketing and stuff too.
I'm gonna get you guys to bed, or at least off to your day, Chris, since you're in Japan. Ali, Bad Lads Early Access, the last title tonight.
All right, Bad Lads Early Access, developed and published by Chemical Head Studios. Massive multiplayer role play in a giant city. Play on the field as a police officer. Rise through the government to become the most vicious president. Create and lead your own gang, recruiting players. Buy yourself the apartment you always deserve, decorate it, and park in your new car. That kind of seems all over the fucking place. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't know what they're... Yeah, what are they going for?
What are we doing here?
What we're doing is Fred is closing us out with a game that doesn't need to exist. That's what it's doing.
It's the last game coming out on Thursday. I also agree. It's not, it doesn't blow our mind away. I think you guys are being very, very harsh.
That's just my first comment, and that's because the animations, the art style, the fact of they're showing a very small, shitty town in a very they're driving away to a hillside that just looks like a goatsy hole leaving the town. There's the art is poor quality, the animation's poor quality, and the overall theme of this thing just does not ring like an MMO at all. Once again, when he was talking about a place that you want to be invested in, Chris was earlier, of a universe that you want to be invested in. This looks like a random shithole, not even really good mountains, and I cannot see how they'd make this an MMO.
It looks pretty fair for early access. Come on.
I'm not going to be as harsh as Logan, but I will say, oh my God, your height map terrain is terrible. The extruded mountains in the distance is really my first time at a environment editor. It's
we're closing the show on a low. We've got the Wheel of Fortune, guys. We've got some good stuff coming.
I mean, it looks like somebody's put a lot of work into this, and there's this actually looks to me. I don't know anything about this team, and I'm going to assume they're a relatively young team. This looks like a very, very large spec for a game and a team that wasn't ready to make a game that big, and a whole lot of kind of weird corners got cut, like the environment. That's what it kind of looks like to me. I don't know. I can't say watching this after all the stuff we looked at in today's show. I can't say that I'm going to go out and download this game. I can't say that honestly.
Yeah.
This game kind of looks like it's almost like a spiritual successor. I don't know if you guys know Gary's mod, but they have a lot of role-playing servers, and those are actually extremely popular. It feels like someone wanted to make a standalone version of that, but I don't know. I agree. I'm not sure about this.
I hate the trash developers. I really do.
It's totally fine. I think it's fair. I honestly,
I just don't see like
it was the JRPG or that one. I couldn't make up my mind.
When I look at this, my one overwhelming feeling is like, why? Like I'm like I don't get like what is this
well, the
add
thing
to
is
our world?
To say anything interesting about this is I think what's sad about this story when I look at a game like this is that there's an earnest, honest effort to make a video game.
Yeah, I know.
Here.
Someone obviously put some time and energy into this.
And that game is gonna crash hard.
Well, that's just it. And to toss it in an MMO thing because you want the people to be able to populate it, but the cutscenes don't make sense. The characters don't make sense. And I understand putting the early access label on something, but you have to have a compelling thing. To own an apartment that you've always wanted to own and park your car, like that isn't a game. Like it's not.
I mean, it could be.
It's just life.
It could be, but again,
it sucks.
It could be, but again, like Chris was talking about MMOs and how he wouldn't undertake such a project. I mean, at a much smaller case, you have got the same idea here, right? Like you could make that game interesting if you had a team and a budget. But then again, hold on, we're full of shit. I mean, sorry, but we're full of shit. Look at Minecraft.
True.
Right? Look at Minecraft.
Also true.
How you're comparing this to Minecraft? Is that what you came around to?
My point being,
I got a lot more I can do in Minecraft. The point in Minecraft is not, this.
Well, you don't know that for sure. You don't know. See, that's the thing. That's where I kind of disagree with you guys. Is I feel like maybe the trailer isn't all that well put together, but there seems to be a whole world out there that guy's built.
A whole world of really terrible height map terrains.
But it's in early access. Now you see different scenarios. I think you guys are being overly rash, honestly. And I agree with you. It's not the thing I'm most excited about.
Why are we talking about this and not that weird ass Japanese board game that was on your list?
No.
Why didn't we talk about that? Like that would have been.
Oh, which one? I can play it very quickly.
Billion Road. That would be phenomenal to use the last 5 minutes.
All right.
Yeah, let's use that.
Right here.
I want to pull that up. That was weird as shit. I want to talk about it.
Thank you, Chris.
Go right ahead. I'll fix the stream meanwhile. But here's the trailer. That's your Mario Party for Switch.
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know what the fuck it was, but it was weird. This was at least weird.
Yeah, this is a full-on game.
Do we have the music turned on for this? Did you guys listen to the music on this?
Too.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's basically like Monopoly in Japan.
Sorta? Kinda?
Take over Japan and dominate the businesses like every person that's a Japanese businessman wants to do.
Yeah.
The thing is, I couldn't figure out if this was an actual Japanese game or like people making fun of Japanese games.
It's developed by Bandai.
I know, but it's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
it's fucking weird.
But like, I mean, when this is so Japanese that I'm like, are they just taking the piss? Like, is this just people making fun of how bad Japanese games are? Like, I can't figure it out. Right? It's completely hilarious.
It's all fun in games. Well, I think that would be fun. I just think it would be fun on console, not so much on PC gaming. Like
Actil LLC is actually a full-blown large publisher.
But are they larger than fucking Bandai? There's no way.
Yeah, it may be one of those weird ass like domestic Japanese publishers that just makes like weird shit for Japanese people. Like, there's a whole world of that over here. There's like an entire Japanese entertainment industry we know nothing about.
Yeah, but at what point in the corporate process does Bandai go, we're going to develop a game and we're going to get it published somewhere else? Like,
well, Japanese companies do weird shit sometimes. They still use fax machines, man.
They think that it might, like the Japanese Goofy board game won't sell well in Japan, but they think it'll be goofy and novel over in Los Angeles. So they're using a splinter publisher in Los Angeles to help push out something that's done that they've bought from someone else.
Maybe.
Bandai just happens to own it and maybe use some of their in-house resources to bang this out. I think it's funny. I think that it looks cute, and I want to be a little Japanese businessman tycoon. Come on.
It was like Monopoly, where like in the middle of the game, Godzilla comes out and attacks.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
It was
you guys saw the Godzilla in it, right?
Uber Japanese Monopoly is what that game is.
Yeah, it's weird, man. That's way more. This whatever. I don't know what the fuck this is, but it's way more deserving of our time.
Well, at least
I would agree.
All right, guys, we've got the Wheel of Fortune coming up right now. We've got a bunch of games. I can give you the list, actually, if you bear with me. So we're about to give away a total of 15 games. 14 games. Death's Gambit, Exapunk, Battle Chasers Night War, AR War 2, Niflheim, 198X, Battlefield 1, Felseal, Arbiter's Mark, that's the one, Fantasy General 2, Panzer Corps 1 Gold, Panzer Corps 2. All the 3 last games are the generous donation of Slivering Games for the Noobcast. Thank you, Paolo, you're the best. F1 2019, My Friend Pedro, and Planet Coaster is the last one. So I'm about to cast the wheel, and whoever.
Wait, does one person win all of that?
All that crap, like
all of
that
it.
person, and that's gonna happen on a weekly basis. Just to thank you guys to bear with our technical difficulties. I feel like it's only
Dude,
fair.
that's like a year's worth of gaming.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. It's good.
Whoa.
It's good times.
How do I enter this? I want to enter that raffle. How do I enter?
The link is in the chat right now.
It's too late. You're past it. I'm about to start the wheel. So let's go. The Wheel of Fortune.
Oh man, wait. Push those buttons.
It's too late. It's too late.
There you go.
Well, I don't have time to play games anyway. Seriously, that was like it's got to be at least 500 hours of gaming you're about to give away. That's a lot of games.
Yes. And the funky, sorry, not the funky. End of the night, the funky winner is Krusty Fork. Yes, we know Krusty Fork. I'm happy for you, Krusty. I hope you enjoy it, man.
That is a strangely upsetting screen name. Krusty Fork?
No, Krusty Fork's the man. Krusty
Thanks,
Fork.
I hate it.
We'll be delivering. Krusty is actually part of the E4I team and has done a fantastic job putting together.
Really upsetting name, though.
I'm sorry, Chris. Not everybody you can be a Natsume.
Or a 9 Squirrels.
That's true.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I had a great time. Michael, thanks for coming on the show. We truly appreciate it. Hope you guys all enjoyed. I think we're doing a little bit better. Next week we'll be even better, and hopefully
10 minutes of silence next week. We're passing out games this week, so, one of the two.
Thanks, guys. You have a great night, everyone. We'll see you next time.